Welcome to Net Hero, the Carbon Impact Podcast, a podcast by One Tribe. I'm your host, Ric Porteus. Welcome to the next episode of Net Hero, a Carbon Impact Podcast. And on today's show, we have Jose Gorbea from HP, who is the Global Head of Brands and Sustainability Innovation. And we're going to be talking about purpose-led brands and co-creation and what that means to businesses. So Pepe, great to see you today. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here, Rick. Thank you so much for having me.
And I'd love to let the listeners know all about you. And now we've known each other for a few years now and worked on a few projects together, which has been fantastic. And you really opened up the world of purpose-led brands to me and the power of co-creation. So Pepe, I know all about you, but would you give everyone an understanding of your background, your career, where you've gone and how that's brought you to where you are today?
With pleasure, Rick. First of all, thank you for having me here. It's a privilege to just take part in this journey that you're on. And I hope that this creates a better mindset of the audience that you're trying to address this to, so that all of us create a better, brighter future for our planet and for our society. So starting with my career and why did I get into marketing was kind of by chance. I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life when I started studying, and I started into business management. And through that, I discovered brands, I discovered the world of marketing, and I just got attracted to it. And I got very lucky very early in my career where I got a job in Mexico City, where I was raised, to start working for a local snacking company there called Bimbo for a couple of years doing marketing. And through that, I started getting this itch to have more of an international career. And when I was exposed to international companies, I got a chance to shift into a company called Kraft Foods, Kraft Heinz called today. And in that company, they really taught me well how to do proper marketing and proper communication strategy, branding, and all of these things that we see manifest themselves in campaigns that are trying not only to create a business for a brand, but also have a positive impact in the things that we do. And in that part of my career, one of the persons working with me in the biscuits business that Kraft had a crisis. And that crisis was about purpose. He told me once that his life could not depend on a cookie, that a cookie could not dictate how his life should pan out, and that he should be doing something bigger and better. So that guy decided to leave the company. First of all, I was very young in my career. It was in my mid to late 20s. And I didn't understand it at the moment. And I said, well, but why do you want to leave? You have a good salary. We have a good team. We have great projects. We're doing amazing marketing. But he already had this vision that he had to find his own purpose. And it kind of stuck with me through time. So I continued with my career, and I'll come back to that in a moment. Then I had the opportunity to live in the US and manage brands from there and in Latin America. And I started getting more this sense of being more competitive internationally, not only locally. So it really taught me how you view yourself as a person in the world of marketing that competes not only with other brands, but with your peers within a company. But having that ability to transcend cultures allowed me to understand how people view things from another perspective. That is not my country, my upbringing, Mexico, and all of these things. And it just shifted my mindset to try and achieve more bigger and greater things. So just to cut the story short, I went into Nestlé, into the chocolate division of Nestlé in Mexico as a marketing manager. Then I came back to Kraft Foods in Switzerland to do chocolates at a global level. And then I shifted after 7 years in Switzerland into HP. I bumped into HP by chance, and they really wanted to have someone in the company that allowed them to build a marketing consulting division within the company to help brands understand the power of digital printing and the power of personalization on packaging through digital printing. So as I was building that, I always remember this person in Kraft Foods in Mexico that left the company.
The cookie man.
The cookie man, because he couldn't find purpose in the corporate world. So it kind of stuck with me through all of those years. You know, I've been working for more than 25 years. And when I came to HP, for the first time in my life, I had a chance to do a better thing, not only do business for business or marketing for marketing, but start building a division in the company that really catered to not only personalization, but I would say personalization with purpose for good, for creating a better impact in society, especially in society, and then also eventually through the years in sustainability, because when you print packaging as a brand, it's just healthier for the planet when you do it digitally because there's just waste reduction, carbon reduction, and many other things that I didn't know at the time as I was joining HP. So connecting the dots as I was building this team, we really found a niche in the market where you could create things that invited humans, consumers, to take part in marketing campaigns through what we call co-creation, which is the art of involving your community individually and collectively by celebrating the voices of the community, not the voices of the brand, to achieve a greater good, which is not only selling for selling, marketing for marketing, or personalization for personalization, but you channel the energy of a community against solving a specific problem, being that, I don't know, picking up litter from the ocean or whatever the case might be, planting trees like you guys do. So all of these things gave me an opportunity to think of this guy, which I will never forget this person, the cookie man, and say, thank you for showing me something very early in my career that I could not understand, but that now with HP and then eventually with my own teaching and consulting service of StoryMaking for Good, I can really put into practice. Like I really feel that I have more meaning in my life than just doing business. And that drives my engine. So that's kind of my story in a few minutes to give you context of where I come from and why what I believe is a better, more engaging way to drive sustainable behavior change in the world, which we badly need.
Exactly. Pepe, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for giving us that insight and to have just to trace that back to that single comment that an old colleague made and how that stirred you on that path to purpose led is really fantastic to hear. So it really put that in perspective. And if we continue on the purpose led path and just go down there for a few minutes, you introduced me to Paul Polman's book called Net Positive several years ago when we first met. And that book for me had such a dynamic shift in how I was thinking about things. We were obviously with One Tribe, we were concentrated on protecting and regenerating global biodiversity, but how we turn that into purpose-led brand marketing and stories for businesses to adopt, to use and showcase and share with their audiences really changed how we operate, how I think. And so on that note, the Paul Polman Net Positive sort of manifesto, how do you see that from when you first saw it to where it is today? Do you see any advancements and changes? Do you see more businesses getting behind the net positive movement? Has net positive taken hold anywhere, or has it been adopted in a different way?
It's a very deep philosophical question. I'll try to address it in the best way. I got insights into Paul Polman before he wrote his book. Why do I say this? Because before he was the CEO of Unilever, he worked at Nestlé when I was working at Nestlé a couple of decades ago. And he was always very open about his beliefs on how a business should be built and how business should thrive in the future by giving more back to the community or to the planet than you take. It's a very simple mindset shift. It's just a mindset shift. And then I think for him, he had already the idea of this book for many years, like many decades before he wrote it. And when he had the time to write it and then put it out there and see it, shared with the world, so to speak, after being the CEO of Unilever later in his career, I think Unilever gave him that megaphone that he needed to get people's attention at scale. So I kind of related back to my time at Nestle and also the Cookie Man and how you find purpose by giving back more than what you take. It's a very simple concept, and today I think many companies, the way they operate, the way they create marketing campaigns, the whole communication strategy behind sustainability is around how they limit their footprint. If you take packaging as an example, any packaging, in most of them, especially, I don't know, a beverage or a shampoo, You have tons of icons in the back of that pack of the brand trying to tell their consumers how they're limiting impact. X% of recycled PET, carbon reduction, waste reduction, all of these things, which I think are good, but are not great. I think it's just a very small baby step into a much bigger need that we have, which is giving back more than we take. And that's where I think that brands and businesses should be thinking all the time. So, connecting the dots to that book and connecting the dots to my own personal purpose, the reason I share that book with you and with many other people is just because of that little statement that it has in it of the way of thinking that you need to give back more than what you're taking. And if we just learn that from that book, we're on a better path.
That's the golden nugget, right? You could put it down to that one line. And I think the way we sort of adopted it, and the customers that we work with, is how do we go to that next step? How do we give back more? And right now, out in the cinemas, there's a movie called Ozzy, Voice of the Forest. It's Leonardo DiCaprio's new animation film, and we're the climate action partner, the official partner of that. And we've did a purpose-led campaign. So at the end of that movie, you can scan a QR code. The viewer goes through the process, and it saves a tree for free for that viewer to say thanks for watching the movie. And we've engineered this process as part of this net positive manifesto to give back more, than what it took to create. So it's a really powerful, engaging way of doing things. And that sort of leads me onto the concept of co-creation and partnership. So we're all in this space focusing on the UN Sustainable Development Goals and how we can participate in as many as possible and increase our participation. And number 17, partnership for the goals, for us and for myself, really is the single most important one, because without co-creation, without partnerships, without marketing initiatives that we can get excited behind, we won't move forward. It's great to do science-based targets initiative, reduction plans, and that's absolutely what every business has to do. But it's generally back office. It's behind scenes. It's not what excites and drives business growth or sustainable business growth. So co-creation, partnerships really is the main focus where businesses can really adopt and move forward in a positive way, in a net positive way. So in that co-creation space, maybe Pepe, you want to talk us through one of the examples that we worked on in the past, or what you've done at HP. I'd love to dig deep into one of those consumer engagement co-creation pieces that you showed me and sort of blew my mind on previously.
So let me just bring one concept to the conversation, which is around the word regeneration, which links back to the book of Paul Polman. So one of the things that I built is this concept of regenerative marketing or regenerative branding, which is a way to do branding to give back more than what you take, but also something I've learned through the years on working on sustainability with people like you and with sustainable brands as a community that catalyzes businesses to do B2B partnerships to accelerate sustainability initiatives, is the ability to think transversely in the value chain of a business or a brand. Today, when you do branding, most marketers think vertically. What do I mean by that? That they build the strategy of a communication of a product or a service through the attributes and benefits of that product or service, the consumer benefit, the emotional benefit, and they communicate out to the world, and they assume people are going to take that in and going to be transformed, by their wonderful marketing campaigns. The problem with that approach, which is for me the old world of marketing, is that it's a one-way communication avenue that is just trying to do business for the sake of business. When you look at how your products or services are made and where they come from and all the communities that you impact in the value chain of that product or service, and then you think how you can create a communication campaign that will activate an idea through the community, not through the brand only, you get people involved and you get them to create some sort of commitment with their own community. So when I started working on campaigns, to answer your question, and I started seeing that being put into action, it just started transforming my way of thinking as a marketer, that there's a better formula, a better recipe to do things and create campaigns that are not only going to help your business, but are going to have a deep impact in communities. And to me, one of the first campaigns we did when I joined HP on this path was with the Amarula campaign. Amarula, for those of us hearing us who don't know that brand, it's a liquor made of marula fruit, which grows on trees in Africa, which actually it's said that actually elephants get drunk with it when they eat that fruit. There are many funny videos on YouTube to watch that, so I invite you to Google that. But the point here is that elephants in Africa will disappear very soon, by 2030. And there are less than 400,000 elephants today in Africa because of ivory trade. And this is totally out of control. So Amarula as a brand really wanted to fix this problem, and they joined forces with many partners, including HP, to create an idea and a concept called Name the Elephant, Save the Elephant. So you gave the elephant a name out of 400,000 elephants, and you designed your own bottle in the spirit of that specific elephant. And consumers were invited to a website to do that. And every time a consumer went into the website to do that, Amarula worked with an organization in Africa that put a tracking collar in the neck of the elephant so that you could actually track them through Africa. And it served a purpose, which was the authorities in Africa could see where the elephant was all the time and prevent, poachers and people killing them, getting their ivory and all of these things. So it really created an ecosystem where consumers, put their little grain of salt through co-creation, created their own design that created the donation to this organization to put the tracking collar. And you kind of adopted your own elephant. So you went into the website, and let's say that my elephant is called Rick. So I put Rick as a name on the elephant. So that elephant is assigned to me, and I can see Rick on a map where he is, what he's doing during the day, during the night. But most importantly, authorities have a mechanism to protect Rick from poachers. So that level of commitment that brand created between the elephants, the authorities, and most importantly, our planet, because we cannot afford losing more species in our planet, created a campaign that was so memorable that just in the USA alone, more than doubled their sales. Because when people see these things actually happening, and when you are co-creating them, a lot of people share these experiences on social media. So you start getting information or communication from the brand and the campaign through other people, not just from the brand putting a TV ad on YouTube and just trying to put it as an unskippable video, which is very annoying for consumers to go through that experience. You actually get the campaign through other people, which is a much more authentic, engaging, and transparent way of doing things as brands. And because it was about co-creation, it invites people to take action, to be part of something, to have that meaning, to have that purpose, and put it into action and drive what we call now sustainable behavior change in many of the forums that you and I participate together.
Yeah, it's just such an incredible story. And I remember not only seeing the actual product on the shelf when you showed me the packaging, which looked amazing itself, but that detail, that power of co-creation, those partnerships actually having real world environmental impact is just, it's a mind blowing campaign. And it can be done. It's super complex, but it can be done quite easily in terms of structure and bringing in the right partners. Everybody is amplified to do these things. So that bringing that marketing process forward and the power of co-creation has had such a positive impact on protecting elephants in Africa. So what a fantastic story to understand and hear. And so let's stay on that for a minute. I remember seeing some other examples of what you've done with consumer engagement when it comes to packaging. Maybe you want to talk us through. I'll tell you what was a great one was the Nescafé with the farmers. That was incredible. And I think, again, if you could just give us an overview of how that functions, because that for me was one of the most impactful campaigns I've ever seen.
So first of all, when you create communication campaigns today, it's very important for people to remember that human beings are not only digital or only physical. One of the biggest mistakes I see happening in the way brands build a media plan is that they say, many marketing leaders across the world, I see them speaking in forums and say 70% or 80% of my budget is on digital channels or digital marketing or however you want to call that. And is not the right way to think, because we as human beings are both physical and digital all the time. We jump from a screen into the real world, back into a screen, back into the real world all the time. So we kind of forget that. So when I joined HP 7 years ago, it kind of reminded me as a marketer the power of physical communication. And when I started digging deeper into how packaging in this case, or other physical media that you could print, could play a role in creating not only personalized experiences, but purpose and more memorable things like the Amarula campaign, we developed these ideas with Nescafé. I guess everyone loves coffee. Before we started going into sustainability. So we had an initial idea with the Nescafé marketing team in Mexico, which was called New Year's Resolutions. And we started co-creating content between Nescafé and the social media channels of Nescafé, which were mainly at the time Instagram and Facebook, asking people, how are you going to be a better version of yourself? How are you going to improve as a human being the next year, during October? And people answered a million things. And the top 300 answers were the ones that we selected to put them on the labels of the jars. Why was that important? Because as a communication strategy for Nescafe, you start your day with a coffee. I have a coffee in my hand. You have a coffee in your hand as well when we started recording this. But the way you start your day is it just sets you up for the rest of the day. So imagine that every time you open your cupboard and you see that jar of Nescafe, and it has your own personal resolution of losing weight, talking to your grandparents, going hiking, saving an elephant, whatever the case might be. It's a visual reminder all the time of how important it is for yourself to do better, to be better. So when they did it over the Christmas period, which is the moment where, I don't know how it is in the UK, but for Mexicans, we take resolutions very seriously. We try to start in January doing better. So when you look at the shelf and then you look at 300 different possible resolutions, you just pick one that really fits you. Or you pick one that fits your friends. And actually what started happening is not only people buying coffee for themselves, but let's say that Rick, maybe you are a smoker and you want to quit smoking, and I really care about you. And you have a mission to quit smoking the following year. And I have a resolution and I see it on the shelf, and I don't think about myself, I think of Rick. So I buy that, I go for a Christmas dinner, and I give it to you. And I say, Rick, this is not wine, this is not beer, this is not a Christmas jumper. This is a more powerful gift, because as of January 1st, you'll remember me as your friend, trying to help you achieve that objective. So it became a very powerful gift, thanks to co-creation and thanks to physical media packaging playing a role visibly in your cupboard in the kitchen every single day, versus the screen, where in the screen, the challenge is that as human beings, we're exposed to more than 10,000 ads a day on average in the planet. It's impossible to remember them. If I ask you of an advert from Instagram from 7 days ago, even if the advert was memorable, you're just moving on to the next thing and you just forget it. But when it's physical and it's co-created and it has a unique piece of content that is relevant to you, chances are you're going to keep it with yourself for longer, and it's going to create a more memorable, lasting impact in your life. So the reason I'm telling you this story is that it became the starting point of Nescafé believing as a brand team and their agency in co-creation. They reaped the success of that for 6 years straight, where they grew double digit every year because of this campaign, and because also coffee was never given as a gift. You never gift coffee, you gift chocolates, but not coffee. But the gift was because of co-creation and because of the purpose that we put for humans to be better, that then opened the door for this other campaign on sustainability, on community, on net positive, on giving back more than what you take, which is the Nescafé plan. So Nescafé had been having for more than a decade this Nescafé plan that supports the life of coffee farmers across Latin America, especially in Mexico. They support 20,000 coffee farming families to give them a job, a prosperous life, access to education, all of the things that we take for granted in the first world. Give that to the farmers, which are the main heroes of why you can actually drink a really nice cup of coffee with Nescafé. And they want to build that in a way that by co-creating the content, they could engage to a younger audience. They could really speak in a more authentic way about their sustainability strategy across the value chain, and that they could also invest in the quality perception of their brand, that soluble coffee is also good quality, because many people believe that soluble coffee is not good quality. So for them, it was highly strategic. And because they had this previous experience on the New Year's resolutions, they said, it's a no-brainer. Let's do this. So we got together and we started looking at regenerative marketing, which is across their value chain and not just on the communication part of the brand. And we saw that the farmer opportunity was huge and it was there to be taken. So what we started doing with them is every year we put 1,000 stories of farmers, real authentic stories of farmers on the labels of that coffee during the summer, so that people can learn how the coffee is made, where it comes from, how they take care of it, and how Nescafé takes care of that person or that specific family through a QR code on the back of the pack. So the farmer is the star of the show in the front of the pack, and their name is there, and they say like, "Thank you for bringing us this great coffee." But on the back, people actually started writing emails to these people because they wanted to meet them, they wanted to know more about, how the brand is taking care of them, and so on and so forth. Long story short, it became just the new core of their marketing strategy. They have been doing this now for 6 years straight. It grew from Mexico to Colombia to South America, to Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, all of these countries in South America. And it will continue to grow because slowly other Nescafé teams in other countries start looking at this as a better way to do marketing. And also because the results are coming in. So they're growing market share every year. And it's just a very well-rounded story. And in the end, it's just a better way to be authentic, to collaborate with your community, to get them involved and get them to take action into giving society, especially people in need, a better life, which is the story of the Tribute or Tribute campaign, which is the name of this idea. So when you start adding all of these pieces of the puzzle and putting them together, for me, it has become a no-brainer to create a framework and an ecosystem where people can take this concept, take this way of thinking, and then put it into action, which is where I've been highly involved for the last few years.
Exactly. I mean, what I loved about that campaign was the video of the farmers. When they actually saw their faces on the bottle and it lit them up, they were so sort of blown away. It was such a powerful video to see that, and I think that's on YouTube as well, right? So it's what amazes me about these things, the campaigns can be simplified. The fact that we can now use QR codes, which is so basic technology, but it engages that consumer straight into the packaging, way past the brand, way past the actual product they're buying for, and takes it straight to the originator of the product. That's the power. That's that interconnectivity, person to person, missing out the whole conglomerate part in the middle and just giving out a direct relationship. And that, I think, is the sort of true essence of a purpose-led product and purpose-led campaign, and co-creation in itself, in its whole essence, is exactly that, working on all ends of the spectrum, pulling it together and doing something so unique. So that's a great insight, Pepe.
And I'll give you a couple of nuggets on the performance of that campaign that really get me excited personally, as a Mexican and as a marketer. First of all, the campaign from a brand equity metrics point of view, and this is data that came directly from Nestlé. Over the years, it has grown from 4 out of 10 people believing that Nescafé is a socially responsible brand. Now almost 8 out of 10 people believe that Nescafé is a socially responsible brand. So it almost doubled the amount of people from 40% to close to 80% that truly believe that Nescafé is a socially responsible brand and is not doing just marketing jargon like most brands do. So that is highly strategic. It's not just a tactic. It's highly strategic in how you build a brand as a marketing strategy. And the other part is they won the Global Big Effie Award. The Big Effies, or the Effies actually, is a marketing effectiveness award that you win for performance in marketing. And Mexico as a country, as a whole country, with all the brands that are existing in that country over the years, have never won the Global Big Effie Award. So for the first time ever, Mexico and Nescafé, through co-creation and purpose, were able to win this award in Mexico, which was a first. It's like winning your first Oscar as an actor, which is a big deal because for me, it was like a crowning moment to say, this is the new core of marketing. And if people don't understand that this is the new core of marketing, they're just not going to be relevant with their communities.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's incredible to hear. And what one of the things I think what a lot of brands get sort of nervous of, and myself as a former CMO, is when you have that big winning campaign, how do you keep that momentum? What's next year's campaign going to be that's going to keep people interested? That's always the difficult thing, because if you try and maintain the same, it drops off, etc. So, how do you see brands being able to keep momentum in campaigns like that? How is there a consistent with regards to Nescafé? Can it be consistently refreshed in different ways, or is it more of it's just a longer term rolling out marketing campaign?
I think for me, it's the way you co-create and the way you deliver the campaign that makes it appealing to always a younger audience and keep it fresh. The concept of the tribute campaign with Nescafé or New Year resolutions, it stands the test of time because you will always have a New Year resolution. You will always have a reason why you can be better because we're not perfect. In the tribute campaign, you will always have the need to support communities. So I think for me, the concepts will remain, but how you deliver that idea will change through time because there are different ways that you can get the community involved or think about other parts of your value chain that you could activate. So I fully agree with you that it's very hard to always think, oh, how do I top that up? How do I bring something better than the last year? I think it's just a matter of staying true to your purpose. You know what your purpose is as a brand and your role in being regenerative or net positive. You will always find a community that you support that should have a bigger voice to fix a problem in the world. So maybe the thinking is not how do I improve my previous campaign, is what's the next big problem I need to solve? What's the next big thing I need to focus on to help either the planet or the community? And by thinking that way, you will always be relevant. Better or worse, I think it's hard to say. But for me, the word is more relevancy rather than better or worse. And staying relevant is always a challenge for brands.
Staying relevant and innovative. And on the innovative note, what right now there's obviously so much change, new technologies, consumer focus on mobile, everything is literally in that space, that 5 second attention span. So it's difficult to keep people in that mindset and focus on what you're doing. But what have you seen anything recently? Any new sort of technology, whether it's mobile gaming, engagement software, anything along those sort of lines that's really caught your eye that another brand's doing out there that we could sort of talk through?
There's actually a creator, designer, co-creation platform called Midjourney. I don't know if you've heard about Midjourney. So it's the way to visualize art in a way that it's always unique, creating things through the power of AI. AI to me has always existed. It's not now it's a buzzword, but it's always been there since the birth of computing. I think if you think about computing, AI has always been an element there. It's part of how you code things into yes or no answers, or a decision tree. And AI today has evolved more because of the internet and many other things that are out there. But in the end, a campaign that I really like is a brand of wine called Brut in Hamburg, which is the worst place to grow wine in Europe because the weather is highly unpredictable. It rains a lot. But that brand decided to use that adversity as their point of difference in the market. So they started bringing AI technology into their packaging to visualize the weather through patterns. How the rain, the temperature, the sun, the clouds, all of this, the wind, all of these things that are ever changing, they found a way to visualize them and to print them in their bottles. So every bottle that they print today is printed sustainably on fully recycled paper, the label that goes around it. The design has a pattern that is unique to that bottle, to how the weather was the moment that bottle was packed and made. So every time you go for one of these bottles out there, they have beautiful advertisements all over Hamburg and Germany showing the uniqueness of each bottle on the moment it was created. And this is coming through generative AI and how that can translate into visualizing these things. And the reason I called out Midjourney is one of those tools that translate AI into visual art. And I think there is a very good niche and space for creators to combine AI, art, and co-creation into things that create memorable, engaging experiences like this one. If you look at the logo of the next Olympics, I don't know if you've realized this, but the LA 28 logo of the Olympics will never be the same. Every time they show the logo, the A of LA is going to be different. It's going to be ever changing. But the way the A is created is co-created by the design community of people that have been raised and living in LA. So it's a way to transition what the LA community is into something as powerful as an Olympics logo that is going to be out there for the next 4 years. So these are the type of things that are coming through thanks to AI, thanks to co-creation and powerful design tools like HP has one. You've seen it in action through these campaigns, which we call it Smart Stream Designer at HP, that enables a single person to create millions of unique designs or co-create them through a community like the LA Olympics logo for 2028.
Exactly, that is fantastic, and this is where it gets exciting. If you're in that hybrid role of graphic design into marketing, if you're starting or kickstarting your brand, if you're a startup, this is where people can really adopt this and make a major difference to themselves. And on that note, if you were a new brand, a startup company, or you're ready to look at purpose-led, what sort of framework would you run through? How would you sit there, look at your business proposition, your purpose, your values, and try and adapt a purpose-led campaign? Is there any frameworks or starting points that you could recommend?
No, well, I think you hit the nail on the head for me because through the years, many of these campaigns that we've created it don't follow necessarily the same path, but there is a thinking framework that they follow to put them into action. And a lot of the feedback that I've gotten over the years from my customers, the brands, has been give us a framework that we can translate this thinking and put it into action ourselves with our partners, with our community, with our agencies, and so on and so forth. So I got an invitation to teach a program at a university in Barcelona called ESADE, which is one of the top marketing schools in the world. And I teach a program there that is sitting at the intersection of marketing and sustainability that I created with my partner called StoryMaking for Good. And that program is an answer to that feedback from my customers, which is how do you transition the thinking and the concept of co-creating with purpose in an agile way into the real world, into these type of campaigns that we've been discussing. And that slowly became something that is slowly expanding through a very simple framework that we patented called StoryMaking for Good on 3 steps, which is involving the right people. Once you involve the right people, you evolve their mindset. So we have a briefing session or stage in that journey to evolve the mindset of the partners that have to be involved to do one of these campaigns across your value chain, and then delivering the concept and the campaign through what we call the resolve phase, which is a co-creation innovation workshop or co-creation garage, as we call it. So in these 3 easy steps, it's a very simple way to involve people, evolve their mindset, and resolve a problem. And that has become a framework in itself that I'm very proudly using with many customers out there, because it's a very simple way to remember it and to transition the thinking into action in not only in a strategic way, but in a way that you can visualize solutions with your agency partners and whoever is working on any given campaign going forward. So I think for me, I always believe things happen for a reason. And for me, this opportunity to work at HP happened by chance. I was not looking for it, and maybe HP was also not looking for it, but we bumped into each other, and it just put me into this purpose-led path that I'm now in, and it expanded it into teaching and at the university, consulting with some customers as an outcome of the relevancy of what we have been discussing. And in the end, Rick, I like to also leave people with a message, which is something I've learned at Sustainable Brands is that for all the things we need to do to avert a climate catastrophe, organizations like yourself at One Tribe and organizations in general, governments, brands, businesses, through the SDG goals, we only have an answer for half of the problem. Like if you look at the amount of tons of CO2 we need to remove from the planet, there's only an answer to 50% of the problem. The other 50% lies with us, with human beings, changing our behaviors on a daily basis. And I think that's where this story making for good journey that I'm in is going to be an answer to that, to get people involved, to co-create and slowly change the way we do things, the way we buy things, the way we eat things, and so on and so forth. So we need that. And governments or brands alone or organizations like One Tribe cannot do it on their own. We just need to collaborate, co-create by working together to make sure that there's a real step change into this, which I cross my fingers we can make it each time bigger and bigger.
We certainly will, Pepe. That's super inspirational to me, and I'm sure to anyone listening. What you've just talked us through, and the whole power of co-creation and really collaboration. This one thing I always try and focus on is not to be competitive in this. It's we're all the end result of us all doing this together is that we protect and regenerate global biodiversity and protect our planet for future generations. That's the big ambition. That's the big mission. And that won't happen by being over competitive and keeping things closed. It's got to be completely open source, open collaboration. And that's the power of partnerships. That's the power of co-creation and purpose-led businesses. And if we can get everyone on this path and open up to the concept of net positive, and for sure, everybody definitely needs to read the Paul Polman book for that concept. But Pepe, fantastic to have you here today on this show. Thank you so much for that. And I just want to ask you one final question before we close out is, in this world of co-creation and positive movements and the whole net positive concept, is there a single person other than the Cookie Man that has inspired you or inspires you on a daily basis that really has shown you a new way forward?
There are two people and they have nothing to do with sustainability. Okay, but I'll tell you what, these two people have been cliches in my life at different moments in time. One is Walt Disney, who taught me the power of dreaming. And really, if you have a dream, just find a way to make it happen. And the other one is also very cliche, is Barack Obama. When he gave his powerful speech at the beginning of his presidency in the US, with the famous statement of, yes, we can, it's also dreaming that you can make things possible. So for me, the reason I admire these people is they give hope to humanity. I think the problem with humanity right now is that most people have lost a belief in ourselves, a belief that things can get better and that they can make a difference at an individual level. So I think the path I'm in through co-creation and purpose hopefully gives hope to people as well, in the way a Walt Disney or a Barack Obama gave hope to their communities back in the day.
Absolutely. Fantastic, Pepe. That's such a great, powerful statement. So we'll close it, and thank you so much for sharing that insights and recommendations today. Pepe, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Rick, as always, I'm happy to be here. Whatever you need, my dear friend, I'm here for you and your community. So let's co-create.
Excellent. Thanks, Pepe. Net Hero, the Carbon Impact Podcast, is brought to you by One Tribe, the Carbon Impact Platform. To find out more about One Tribe and how they're helping businesses achieve their net zero goals, visit onetribe.com. Make sure to search for the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at One Tribe, thanks for listening.